this episode of the bonus round, we take a look at you, the gamer. We're joined by Michael Pachter, Jessica Chobot, and Kyle Bossman to discuss the changing face of gamers, as well as how publishers are talking directly to gamers.
Nintendo did the greatest thing and the worst thing ever to the core gaming industry.
Where does it all end? Find out on this episode of the bonus round, starting right now. We're back here on the bonus round on GT with Michael Pachter, Jessica Chobot, and Kyle, the final Bossman. All right, guys, so this week we're going to talk about the idea of who is a gamer. We talked about, a little bit about it last week, but today, games are changing so much. I think that's something we even think and talk about at GT is like we've got mobile gamers who play on iPad, and then we've got the kind of the hardcore gamer who's still seen as the, the Nintendo fan or the Xbox or PlayStation fan. And then, there's lots happening in the social space and Facebook and things like that. Are there more people playing games now, Michael, than ever before? People say that, but is that true?
It's true if you define game as something that is made specifically for a device that is intended only to be for entertainment. I remember back in the early 90s, I read a statistic that there were 400 million people who had played solitaire on a PC. Yeah. So, but I mean, that's a game, right? And the only reason that it's not really a game is because you could play it with cards, and all that did was allow you. It was free, and you could do it at work, right? And so it's different now. I mean, I think you would expand that now to say people play Bejeweled or Candy Crush Saga or Farmville. Of course, those are gamers, or Angry Birds on their phones.
Those are free, and it's
pretty much everything.
Crush, I think I dropped at least $300 on that sucker.
But but there are more people playing those types of games, and I think, well, there are clearly more people playing on dedicated devices now than ever before. I think the right way to frame this is, there are 2.5 billion people in the world with internet access. And my guess is a good 1.5 billion of them have played a game that was made, specifically for PC or for a Mac. There are 1.5 billion people in the world with cell phones, shockingly, and I would bet 1 billion of them have played at least jammed at bowling, from the basic, from the basic feature phone, and of course Angry Birds. There are only 250 million people in this last generation who bought consoles. Right. So the audience that we talk to the most, and you can throw the PC gamer in there because the PC gamer isn't playing Farmville.
They appreciate the mention.
Yeah, but it's 250, 300 million people. It's not this gigantor audience like we have for free-to-play Farmville.
So there are more, non-gamers than gamers in that, sense of the hardcore console.
Depending on how Kyle defines gamer, but people. There are plenty of people who play games on devices where they weren't playing anything other than solitaire before, and a lot more than ever.
And not a dedicated game device. I mean, we saw, even around the Xbox reveal, they had a lot of stats about how, in this next generation Xbox One, we want to sell, 500 million units. It's not about, selling 100 million units. So is this sort of the gold mine for the next generation? Is it focusing more on these other folks who kind of casually play games? Because we know, all the people that we talk to every day are probably going to buy one of these systems anyways.
Well, I think Nintendo did the greatest thing and the worst thing ever to the core gaming industry with the Wii. Right. Because they expanded that market to 65-year-old women who bought a Wii for Wii Fit or Wii Bowling, and that legitimized gaming in their mind. So they stopped lecturing their kids and their grandkids and their daughters and their granddaughters, don't play games. Games are bad because grandma's playing games too. Right. So that was a great thing. The bad thing is that Nintendo kind of overshot game sales, and so we had the industry grow bigger than it ever should have. Right. And as those older people abandoned console gaming and moved on to Farmville and stuff, we saw the industry decline. I think a lot of companies built up planning on that continuing forever. That's THQ, to some extent Ubisoft with Just Dance. And now that audience is gone, and we're back to the core, and I think the core is going to get bigger because we're going to have women playing for a long time. And I think, you were talking about that in the last episode. And I think that the older people who actually got hooked and really like games are going to continue to play games. So you can have a lot of 40-year-old and 50-year-old people playing on consoles. So I think it's great. But I think the bad thing is that we had some casualties in the last cycle. We lost Midway, we lost THQ. I think people that overly relied on that casual market, it kind of dried up.
Amazing. Now, when you think though about gamers and sort of this audience, where it's going then for the next generation of gaming, Kyle, is there a worry amongst gamers? I think there is, that the sort of the purity of gaming is being polluted now with sort of all this other stuff that's coming into the mix.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's it. It's the thing that it's just like, oh, this isn't for us anymore. They're trying to reach a bigger audience and we'll be left behind, I think, is the fear. And I don't think that's something to be afraid of, because I think that, the type of people who care, the type of people who watch this show, who love video games enough to just want to see people talk about them, they will be there. We will always love video games. And I think that's something that's kind of not spoken about enough, is that, like, yeah, people play dumb games on their phones, but very few people love those games. And the people who stick around are the people who create those relationships of a game that they truly connect with. And I think that won't go away. And I think that will, continue to help us move forward.
Well, and part of, I think, what the hope is, I know amongst a lot of us, is that, these people that start playing just with a game on their phone may eventually grow interested in gaming in a bigger way, and then immerse themselves in some of these richer worlds where you can be like, wow, the story in Red Dead was incredible or something like that. And that's the idea, is like, can you grow these people into being more typical kind of gamers?
My father is actually exactly one of those people. He's the guy that once he got his smartphone would fiddle around with a couple games here and there. I'd get random texts when he learned how to text. Right.
He must be really old.
What games do you recommend, or this, that, and the other thing? And now he's playing Uncharted 3.
Oh, wow.
And I bought him, we got him a PlayStation 3 and an Xbox 360 for Christmas and his birthday. And he still hasn't accepted my friend's request. I don't understand why. But he'll call me up. Like one year, a couple years ago, I went home for Christmas, and he called me up and he's like, can you come over and set up the wireless, because my neighbor got a PlayStation 3 and we want to play online. Can you go? But he doesn't know how to do it. Can you go show him? Right. So I went next door and had them start talking to each other, and now they play all the time. So it's just, he's one of those guys. I mean, it's happening. Is
the industry doing enough to sort of court those gamers or that audience? Because you think of some of the top creators in our business. I mean, they're all a lot of them are saying, well, I don't want to make a smartphone game. It's like, I can make these big rich narratives.
I don't want to get blasted too badly for this, but I think that the developers are keenly conscious of this audience, and I know the hardcore is going to lash out at this, but I think that's why we get story-driven games. Because story-driven games are really fun for everybody playing them, and even if you suck at it, you want to know what happens next, and you're willing to actually stick with it and try because you want to know what happens next. And I remember, playing just random shooters back maybe 2000, 2002, and not caring and being, put it down, but play Uncharted and try stopping. Right. Like you might play Mass Effect and try stopping.
Last of Us,
I haven't played Last of Us yet. I got to do that. Yeah, you want to know what happens next, and that's what caused the Mass Effect 3 ending fiasco, because they wanted to know what happened next, and it didn't happen the way they wanted it to happen. So, I think that is squarely aimed at broadening the appeal of the game. Although, the hardcore thinks it's for them. Right. And the crazy thing is, it's a tool to turn a more casual gamer into a hardcore gamer. The hardcore guy gets into it because he already was hardcore. He was going to play it anyway. But I think story-driven games embrace more people. And how many of those stories did you hear about somebody playing? I heard this with Uncharted a lot. Their boyfriend or girlfriend would watch them, or their husband or wife would watch them play because they were watching a movie. Yeah. I remember one scene. In Uncharted 1. I put the controller down because I thought it was a cutscene.
Right, and you pick it up.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was actually doing something. I'm like, oh my God, because you would normally, because I wasn't trained yet. Yeah, so oh man. But I think those are great, and if you can bring in your spouse to watch you play, suddenly the whole household it becomes gamers because they're all interested in it.
I'll lash out at you right now though about it. Like they're just those people are trying to make a good game. They're not trying to make a game that like appeals.
No,
to,
I know. I know. I mean, I think that they actually they just understand who their audience is and how to appeal.
Just want to tell a great story, and great stories
are
are
universal.
universal.
Are things that appeal to. I mean, no movie ever won the Academy Award because the writer sat down and said, "I'm going to write the best picture." He said, "I'm going to write a movie that's really going to entertain audiences." And then, what do you know? It was so entertaining, it sold lots of tickets. Yeah. So I mean, I agree with you. They're aiming at their core, but the ones that succeed with everybody, and I think it broadens the demographic.
Well, and even now you see like there are lots of games now where you can on YouTube you can just watch the whole game as a movie or something like that, and it's a great compelling narrative which you don't even have to play. And I think there was even Uncharted had a cinema mode or something where you just watch the cutscenes, and there's that kind of stuff.
Did, yeah.
Yeah, it
which
did.
is like that stuff.
I saw the YouTube video for what Thrift Shop the song meant. So and I found that interesting. It made me like the song more. So YouTube is a great thing. Did you ever see that one?
Little did we know that Matt or Ryan Lewis. Wow, all right.
Yeah, okay.
That's what you listen to in the Porsche when you're driving up to.
I love that song. Are you kidding? My kids always sing it, and there's some pretty bad words in there. Yeah. And my kids are singing. This is how I heard the song the first time. My kids are singing along, and they're like, "This is." Can I say this one? They're like, "This is awesome." My 12-year-old daughter, I'm going, "What is awesome?"
But the song's about positivity.
No, the song is awesome. I love the song, and it's like I'm okay with it. Yeah, I'm okay with that. No,
Its heart's in the right place.
And I have Grandpa's, clothes, so there you go.
Little did we know about Macklemore fan. All right, guys, hold that thought. We're going to be right back here in the bonus round. So as we think moving forward about sort of this next generation of consoles, and there was been a lot of controversy about Microsoft trying to kind of expand with TV, sports, things like that, and Sony kind of focusing very much on the core hardcore gamer. Translate this back to the console audience here. I mean, are these systems going to appeal, do we think, to a wider audience?
I definitely think that the Xbox One probably will. I mean, right. The TV thing, using my father as an example again, somebody that's kind of dabbling in that console gaming and yet, isn't what you would call a hardcore gamer. He'll feel more comfortable buying something and spending his money on something like an Xbox One because it offers kind of an entire entertainment system. He feels like he's getting his money's worth. It has other options, so he kind of feels special, like he can watch Netflix, and nothing that's not necessarily new to us that we already didn't expect, but new for him. And so something where if he was to walk into a Best Buy and ask the guy at Best Buy, this is the criteria I'm looking for, and they suggest that, he'll probably go with that. Versus him walking in and saying, I'm looking for all this, and they don't really know that he's into gaming or getting into gaming, they probably won't look at him and suggest PlayStation 4.
But and this is, I guess, more of a business question for you, Michael, can Xbox get there if they can't get the core gamer? I mean, you look at what happened with Nintendo and the Wii, and it kind of went broader, and the core was sort of there. There's always that Nintendo base. But does Xbox have a problem if they can't get the core gamer? Will they never get to this sort of wider audience?
The device has to be a gaming device first. Right. And I think the analogy is a smartphone. I mean, nobody buys a smartphone solely because they want to access the internet while they're out and about. They buy it because they need a phone. Right. And the selling point of that phone is, yes, I can communicate, and oh, look at all these other cool things I can do. So you pick that model because it does other things. Right. You're going to buy the frickin' Xbox One or PS4 because it plays games, and then you might decide among the two because it does other things, and the other things, as Jessica said, are a selling point. But you have to be walking in to buy a game console.
You're not going in to buy a new, TV tuner.
Right, because that's like saying you're buying an internet, a portable PC that fits in your pocket. I mean, no one thinks of their phone that way, right. But it really is that. Yeah. But you just don't think of it that way. And I actually almost got a Galaxy Note because I can do spreadsheets on it, and it's big, and and then I thought. I got a laptop, and I don't really want to do all that productivity stuff, so I'm stuck, in that with a smaller phone. But no, I think Microsoft has to sell, and Sony have to sell their boxes to to the hardest core guys, because those are the guys who are going to tell all their friends.
And they're going to pay, $400 or $500 this year.
And they're going to pay $5 a month for Xbox Live, and they're going to download a lot of stuff, and they're going to buy a lot of movies, and they are so lucrative. And honestly,
Lucrative. The gamer's
but the
lucrative.
guy, is that the word you were looking for before? The guy who wins this next generation is going to be the guy who gets the biggest installed base the quickest. And I don't know if that's first guy to 10 million or first guy to 30 million, but it's that. This is the first console cycle we've had ever, I think, where the two big competitors launched at the same
Head to
time.
head.
Yeah.
I mean, ever. I think, yeah, because Sony 95 and Nintendo 97, and then 2000 and then 2001 with Sony and Microsoft, and 05 and 06. This time they're together. So I would say the first guy to 30 is the first guy to 100 is the guy who wins.
He's got a 500.
And well, that's why the $100 price point matters. Yeah. That's why DRM mattered, and that's why Microsoft better explained to us why all these extra features, why Connect bundled in, why it's worth $100. Because right now Sony's ahead because they're $100 cheaper, and if you see, two burgers that look identical, and one is $1 and one is $1.25, you're going to go eat the dollar burger because they look the same. And
It's just interesting to me that I feel like, how do I want to put this? I feel like the mistake was made again, and by that I mean with PlayStation, and this is just my personal experience, with PlayStation 3, I waited a long time before I bought that console because when it was launched, it was so expensive, or that's the way that I perceived it to be, and I felt that it was expensive because they were forcing a Blu-ray player into that, where I didn't necessarily want that. And so I was really kind of bitter about it and passed on it and eventually got it, but once the price had dropped. And I feel that that same exact mistake was made at the announcement for the Xbox One because they forced Connect on you, and you don't, it's, whatever the reason may be.
They haven't even shown any games.
I mean, I have a
really.
Connect now and I barely use it. That's not to say that I'm not going to use the next one, or maybe that I don't, or who knows what they've got planned, because you truly, at the end of the day, don't know till it's in your living room.
But I would say with Connect this year, I mean, they haven't really even shown any games for Connect.
it's not games, it's Skype.
Advertising.
It's
Those voice
Skype,
commands.
it's Skype.
Xbox on.
It's Skype, and it's their belief that the searching for a television program is easier with voice. I don't agree.
It's nonsense.
No,
How often
I
do
would
you
much
use Siri?
rather use
How
a
often do you use
tablet.
Siri to surf the web?
Never. I don't see. I have Siri on my iPad and my phone. Never. The only time I ever use voice on my phone is if I'm in the car. I dictate responses to texts or to
Play Macklemore.
No. I dictate answers to emails and texts because it's easier. But other than that, no. I think they're wrong on that. The camera, I think, is real, and I've been, again, vilified on saying Skype is a killer app. I think when people see that you can actually have your friend watch your gaming session, help you through it, coach you, do whatever, or you can just show off, I think they're going to like it. I think they're going to like it a lot. I think gamers are going to like that.
I mean, I'm very curious to see how it all plays out. I'm not trying to poo-poo on either side.
No.
I mean, I just know. Listen,
I
at
knew
the
you'd
end
get
of the
that.
day,
I knew you'd get poop in there, a little poop joke.
little poops jokes. At the end of the day, no matter how much everybody conjectures, you just don't know till it's in your living room. I mean, it's. So I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait and see. And
But if you could only buy one?
Cue the dramatic music.
Come on, nobody's paying you. It doesn't matter.
I honestly, I don't. This is gonna make me sound so bad. I've never only bought just one console in my entire life, so
You're very fortunate.
I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate. So it's one of those things where I don't know if I have a right answer for that question.
Well, I think part of it now is, gamers, if they know, the systems that they know now, the kind of games they like to play, it's clear PlayStation is the system that you want. The question is, with all these things Xbox is talking about, as you said, can they do, I think there's much more advanced technology in that box. I mean, when I would do tours at E3 between the two booths, you'd say, here's PlayStation 4, it's a better PlayStation, and here's Xbox and all these cool tracking things they're doing with skeletons and track your heart rate and things, and people be like, wow, that's amazing, but it's like, how does that translate into something?
It's always going to be
that's
games. It's always going to be games. You know, like when there was the PSP and the Nintendo DS,
Right.
there was like no way the Nintendo DS was gonna make it. Look at everything the PSP does.
Right.
And it's just the games. Like Nintendo DS had freaking great games.
Yep.
And same with 3DS, I guess, against the Vita, you know?
Great point.
And that just like died. And so like, no one's gonna say like, have a great game on a PlayStation 4 and look at his friend's Xbox One and be like, oh, I wish I had camera features. No one will do that because this person has great games. And that's like, that is what it's going to be.
But don't you think both sides are going to have great games?
Yeah, and it's going to be like the system that has the best games. You know what I mean? I think that.
Well, but yeah, I mean, Sony, this last generation probably arguably had even better first-party games probably than Microsoft, and yet Microsoft still, at least in the U.S., pulled ahead. So it's like I think they're both going to have good games,
Yeah.
but it's like it's going to be it's going to be a great battle though. I think that's the thing, and it's like hopefully the battle will create a lot of excitement where the public will have to decide, do I want one of these systems? What are the differences between the two? And much like when you're buying a cell phone, you have to look at the features and decide, this is $100 cheaper, but this has that, and like hopefully people will buy one of them. And it's like core gamers will probably eventually buy both, but it'd be great for the industry if just a lot of people just bought one.
Yeah, I mean, like about the last generation, nobody only sold 20 this time, Nobody only sold 20 million. Like we had I feel like a pretty good last generation, you know what I mean? Nobody failed. And
Unlike this coming generation.
you think someone will fail? You think someone will top off at 20 this time?
I'll know more in about 12 months.
I don't think I think we're all more
But
supportive.
you're predicting the Wii U is only going to
I
get
think
to
the Wii
30
U
or something like that?
I think the Wii U will do 30 to 50, but I think 30 is pretty bad. 50 they'll be okay. They probably won't lose money.
But now Iwata's saying he's not going to step down. So.
Oh, really? No
Well,
matter no matter what their profit level
He
is?
said, he wasn't going to, he didn't know what, didn't he say, like last week in investor meeting, he said like, I'm not.
I think he just said, I don't remember saying that. I don't
remember saying I was
yeah.
going to step down.
No, he might have said it on Giant Bomb after some alcohol. So that's probably what happened. That's probably why he doesn't remember. Okay.
All right, well, we'll see. So it's going to be an interesting battle for the holidays. And when we come back next week on the bonus round, we've got more with Michael, Jessica, and Kyle.